We live in a constant need for stimulation to remove boredom. But entertainment is an Ouroboros snake that keeps feeding on the same vicious dopamine cycle. That's where certain genres of simulation games have emerged. Games so easy that they're bordering on being boring, helping us rediscover a calm brain with no overstimulation. Welcome back to Moose Tank, where we yap and yawn about game development. I'm Tess.
And I'm Victor.
Stimuli in different forms are, as we describe anything important, good in moderation. Too much and you get stressed out, unable to focus on anything. Too little and you stagnate, a constant state of apathy. Good stimuli keeps up a momentum of interest, keeps you focused and teaches you something. For me, it's a good book, where all I have to do is read the words and make up a world in my head, with the capacity I have at the time.
For a game to strike the same balance, it has to be equal in visual storytelling as well as the narrative. If it's exploding with color and tons of information in every side quest, it's easy to get overwhelmed. The lore itself can't be too heavy either, at least not in the beginning, so the player has time to acquaint themselves with the game they're playing. This is why onboarding and tutorials are so important when it comes to interactive media. Walking that fine balance between spoon-feeding players everything everywhere all at once and forcing players to chase the dragon is something that developers struggle with all the time. Games that are, by design, slow, cozy, and in lack of a better word, boring, don't necessarily share the same need for pacing. Yes, they obviously need onboarding so that players know how to play the game, but aside from that, they're made to help you slow down and relax. There's one glaring exception amongst the games we'll be talking about in this video in terms of heavy lore and information overload, and that is Stranding. The actual gameplay is, most of the time, very slow and methodical, while the lore and certain systems are very convoluted. I mean, Hideo Kojima, while being one of the most prominent game designers in history, is also notorious for his wildly imaginative plots and strangely unimaginative for his character names. But we'll come back to that.
The first game we tried was Tiny Bookshop by Neoludic Games. It's a cozy game with an atmosphere of calm. There's inherent curiosity in the customers looking for new books, and I actually found myself intrigued about the books represented in the game. Lots of them which I've read too, which made me feel like I could personally recommend those books. Most of the time the game is really slow. You open up shop and just wait for people to buy some books. It doesn't take too long and there's no quick time events for a faster sale. There's a fixed number of books to sell, and you can increase it by listening to what the customers want. The game itself is very relaxing, a lulling calm in a small town by the coast. You can put your feet up and just browse books with NPCs basically. I would say it's a cozy game in the moment, but I've found it hard to linger on it and enjoy it more. Other games, okay, just Hades 2, is calling my name with its explosion of stimuli. But for what it's worth, Tiny Bookshop is a good palate cleanser, a way to calm your brain for a little while.
I found it a little difficult to get into this game since I got the sense that the game wants you to have read more of the books included for it to really hit home. I'm not by any means an unread person, but I do have a lot of gaps in my literary journey that I probably should rectify. This is very much a me problem and should by no means deter people from playing the game if this is something you're into. I usually enjoy games that are very slow paced, but I guess that my lack of knowledge in the literary sort of soured my experience with the game. Next up is a game about digging a hole by Double B and Meepemy Games. This game does exactly as the title says. You get a shovel, a computer for selling resources, an upgrade station, and the entire backyard of your new house to dig in. The main plot hangs on the fact that there's supposed to be a treasure buried in the yard. I want to preface this by saying that I absolutely love digging holes when I'm at the beach, or at least used to, and I can definitely see the game design in action here, but this game also fell a little flat for me. Every time I started to feel bored with this game, something happened, be it my radar going off or finding a new different area. So I can't really fault the pacing in that aspect. However, the core gameplay loop still felt rather stale after just a few minutes. Dig, find some resources, sell them, and repeat. You can upgrade your tools and inventory, but for me, it just wasn't enough to draw me in.
I was kinda hoping that this would be more profound in some sense. Like a smaller simulation of the real thing where you get in the zone and vibe while digging a hole. Maybe it's because I've experienced the real thing that this game gets lost on me. I also miss more animations in first player immersion to get some emphasis on the effort it takes. And also to anchor my eyes somewhere. I get easily dizzy in games that have a super fast swivel to the camera, which this game does. Most of the time I can adapt after an hour or so, and even use the motion sickness dot, but for this game it didn't help. And maybe that's only for me, but I'm here to represent first person dizzy girlies, I guess. I'm gonna keep digging for gold in another game instead. The stimuli wasn't stimulating.
InKonbini by Nagai Industries is next in line. It's a retail simulator with more focus on story compared to its peers. You play as a young woman helping out in her aunt's store for a week, stocking the shelves and helping customers. But instead of being named as NPCs, the customers all have their own stories, which makes this game stand out from other retail sims. The art style is very cute, and the 90s rural Japan setting is very charming. I've had this game on my radar for a while, and I did quite enjoy it despite not being the biggest fan of retail sims. Probably from having worked in retail most of my life and not liking it. I think InKonbini benefits quite a lot from the focus on storytelling because, at least to me, it made stocking the shelves and caring for the store more relaxing. There isn't really an emphasis on realism, since you can take your sweet time opening the store and fixing everything that needs fixing, which just made it way more enjoyable for me than quote-unquote normal retail sims.
This game certainly balances the boredom of mundane tasks and new story beats very well. It is on the slower side, during night shift where every breath feels alive in the stillness around you. It's methodical but not precise. It's abstract but relatable in its interactions. I only miss being able to understand Japanese, as such simpler stories are a staple in bookshelves across Japan, and would feel more profound in a sense in the correct language. Think Haruki Murakami's books on the everyday life in major cities, preparing your breakfast and listening to the birds. As it goes, the story was cozy enough for me to enjoy, and a great calm diversion in between AAA gunfests. Lastly, we have Death Stranding by Kojima Productions. And since Death Stranding really split the gaming community in half with its game design, we thought that it fit the bill. Despite there being a lot of cinematics and gameplay in this game, a lot of players lose interest after discovering that the main mechanic in the game is to deliver packages. The story itself is heavily referential to afterlife, death, spirits, and connection. But the gameplay is still just that, delivering packages. Some gameplay videos on YouTube actually cut out the tedious trekking, since it takes up most of your time in the early gameplay. But this is the beauty of the game, to have counterbalancing forces of stimuli and boredom to enhance it. You're out there alone, balancing in rivers and climbing up hills while avoiding timefall. Timefall speeds up your body's aging but can't speed up your progress. You have to actively choose to be in the moment and connect to the world around you, grunting, stumbling and fumbling with packages to deliver. Where the other games lacked in realism, Death Stranding delivers. And for me, that is the point of contention. The game hands down delivers a beautiful and immersive environment that you get to trek endlessly. In between the multitudes of cinematics, you get to walk in nature, almost breathing in the foggy and damp, Icelandic-inspired scenery. It's slow, it's meditative and calming, with great songs for parts of it.
I think it's very interesting with a game that delivers such varied experiences. The story is Kojima at its most untethered, while most of the gameplay is walking. When it was released, a lot of people complained that it was a glorified walking simulator, which, yeah, I understand that this is not a game for everyone. But I do think that the gameplay can be viewed from a community lens as well. A big part of the progression is building roads, bridges and ladders to make the delivering of goods easier. And you don't only build them by your lonesome. The game is technically multiplayer, although you don't ever actually see other players, but what you do see is their contributions to the world. Materials for fixing roads or building bridges, a lonely ladder up a difficult mountain, or a small ladder bridge crossing a river. It's all very communal, and without this design decision, I think the game might have felt way more lonely and barren. Games don't always have to be excitement non-stop. There is a concept called Ma that Akira Kurosawa was very fond of, which essentially means that in order to appreciate the grand battles or the climactic beats of a story, you need to be reminded of why they actually matter. And that can be boring. But these are some of our thoughts on games that can absolutely be considered slow and boring, and while not all of them hit home for us, they might for you. So let us know about your favorite boredom games in the comments, and until next time,
See ya!